You store your grain in a clay pit, exactly the way your family always has. Within days, rats and mice find it, drawn to the easiest meal for miles. You didn't invite them. You can't stop them. And then, one evening, you notice a small, wild-eyed creature, crouched at the edge of the settlement, watching the rodents with total focus. You didn't bring it here. Nobody did. It came on its own, and it's about to become one of the most successful animals on the planet, not because you tamed it, but because it decided you were useful. Today, cats live in roughly 1 out of every 3 households in the US alone, curled up on furniture, completely unbothered by how strange that arrangement actually is. Unlike dogs, nobody bred cats for thousands of generations to herd, guard, or hunt alongside you. So how did a solitary wild predator end up sleeping on your bed? Let's start with the animal itself, because the science here overturned a much older assumption. For a long time, historians pointed to ancient Egypt as the birthplace of the domestic cat, largely because of all that famous cat imagery in Egyptian art. In 2007, geneticist Carlos Driscoll led a large-scale study analyzing DNA from cats across the world, comparing domestic cats to several wildcat subspecies. His results traced every domestic cat on Earth back to a single wild ancestor, Felis silvestris lybica, the Near Eastern wildcat, native to the Fertile Crescent. That region matters enormously. The Fertile Crescent is also where humans first began farming grain on a large scale, roughly 10,000 years ago. You're not looking at a coincidence. You're looking at cause and effect. Once people started storing surplus grain, rodents showed up to exploit it. And wherever there are concentrated rodents, a wildcat built for hunting small prey has every reason to move in close, whether or not the humans nearby want company. Archaeologist Jean-Denis Vigne found striking physical proof of exactly how early this relationship began. In 2004, his team excavated a 9,500-year-old grave on the island of Cyprus at a site called Chiluracambos. Inside, they found a human skeleton buried deliberately alongside the skeleton of a cat, positioned close together in a way that strongly suggested intentional burial, not coincidence. Here's what makes that discovery remarkable. Cats aren't native to Cyprus. The only way a cat could have ended up on that island was if humans brought it there, deliberately, on a boat, thousands of years before Egyptian cat worship became famous. Someone valued this animal enough to carry it across open water and bury it like family. Think about the logistics of that decision for a moment. A boat crossing to Cyprus in that era wasn't a casual trip. Every bit of cargo space mattered, and yet someone chose to dedicate part of it to a small predatory animal that produced no meat, pulled no plow, and carried no cargo. Whatever this animal was providing, companionship, pest control, or something, people at the time might not have separated into neat categories at all. It was already considered worth the trouble. So the relationship was old, intimate, and intentional, almost from the very beginning. But here's where it gets genuinely strange, and where cats differ from nearly every other domesticated animal you can think of. With dogs, humans actively selected which wolves to breed, favoring traits like loyalty, trainability, and temperament, generation after generation, shaping the animal deliberately over tens of thousands of years. Cats didn't go through that same process, at least not at first. Wildcats that tolerated being near humans and human settlements got consistent access to abundant rodent prey. Wildcats that stayed skittish and distant didn't get that advantage. Over generations, the population living near people simply became the tamer, more people-tolerant cats, purely because tolerance paid off in easier meals. You didn't build this relationship the way you built your relationship with dogs. The cats built it themselves, showing up, sticking around, and quietly reshaping their own population without waiting for anyone's permission or breeding program. Geneticist Eva Maria Geigel studied ancient cat DNA recovered from archaeological sites spanning thousands of years and thousands of miles, and her research revealed something else fascinating. Cat populations spread dramatically through human trade networks, especially seafaring routes. Ships needed to protect stored grain from rodents during long voyages, and cats were remarkably good at that job. A specific Egyptian cat lineage shows up repeatedly at ports and trading hubs, evidence that cats essentially hitchhiked their way across the ancient world, riding along as unofficial crew members on vessels moving goods between civilizations. That spread wasn't guided by any central plan. No empire issued a decree that ships should carry cats. It happened the same way the original relationship began, independently, repeatedly, in port after port, because the arrangement kept proving useful enough that nobody had a reason to stop it. Giegel's genetic data essentially maps a slow, decentralized takeover, one grain store and one harbor at a time. If you're enjoying learning how much of domestication wasn't actually planned by humans at all, hitting subscribe means you won't miss the next one like this. Back to the story. Picture a granary in the ancient Near East, roughly 10,000 years ago. A wildcat crouches in the shadows at dusk, watching rodents move through the grain stores. A farmer notices the cat again the next night, and the night after that. Nobody trains this animal. Nobody feeds it directly. But the arrangement works for both sides. Fewer rodents for the farmer, easier hunting for the cat. Neither party negotiated this deal consciously. It simply kept happening, night after night, generation after generation, until it became permanent. That's the real twist sitting underneath the story of your house cat. Every other major domesticated animal, dogs, cows, horses, sheep, exists largely because humans deliberately selected and bred them for specific purposes. Cats represent something different, a self-domestication, driven almost entirely by the animal's own decision to exploit a resource humans accidentally created. You didn't domesticate the cat so much as the cat recognized an opportunity and domesticated itself around you. That distinction still shows up in how cats behave today. Dogs were shaped across thousands of years to crave your approval, to read your face, to work as a genuine partner. Cats retain far more of their original wildcat instincts, independent, selectively affectionate, capable of surviving without you if it ever came to that. When your cat chooses to sit on your lap, that choice echoes something ancient. An animal that decided, on its own terms, that staying close to humans was worth it. Even a cat's body reflects how recent and incomplete this process really was. Domestic cats remain almost fully capable of surviving on their own, in the wild, hunting, mating, and raising kittens with no human involvement at all, something you'd never say about most dog breeds after thousands of years of deliberate shaping. Genetically, your cat is only a short evolutionary step removed from the wildcat crouching near that first granary. It simply found a good enough reason not to leave. The next time your cat ignores you completely, then suddenly demands attention 30 seconds later, you're not looking at inconsistency. You're looking at the same independent calculation a wildcat made in a Fertile Crescent granary 10,000 years ago, deciding, purely on its own terms, that this arrangement was worth keeping. If uncovering the real story behind the animals around you fascinates you, there's a lot more prehistory to explore, so make sure you're subscribed for the next one.